Well, hey guys, thank you to all my subscribers for coming back and supporting the channel. If you're new here, hi! So this month we will be studying about the land down under, Oz, Australia, and we will be studying islands and desert and all of the fun marsupials in Australia. So let's get into it. The first series of books are going to be about animals, and then I'll have some storybooks. So the first book is a I can read book, level 1, Ranger Rick, I Wish I Was a Kangaroo, and well, this is just all about kangaroos. What I love about it is, of course, that it has real pictures. It has questions that you can ask your kids while you're reading. And if you have a first or second grader, they can help you read along. You may want to read one sentence and then have your child try to read the next sentence if you're practicing with reading. But I just really love all of the realistic photos. The next book is called Young Zoologist Koala, and this is by Professor Chris Daniels, Neon Squid publication. And it is a lovely book as far as the illustrations. This tells you what they talk about in the book. About koalas. Are they bears? Their family, attracting a mate, the life of a baby joey, daily habits, the gum trees or eucalyptus trees that they eat, and myths about koalas, which was actually a very funny section, and also threats and dangers to koala. It's a very nicely written book. But there is a part like that talks about mating and koala babies. So, just letting you guys know in case you don't want to discuss those things with your child. But overall, I thought it was a very informative and nicely done book. The next book is called Over in Australia, Amazing Animals Down Under. This one, I would really say it's more geared towards kindergartners, or if you were reading this at the beginning of the year to a first grader. It's just basically counting the different animals. But what I did like about this book is that it goes through all of the different animals that you find in Australia, and some of them you may not be familiar with. And so that is what I liked about the book. And of course, I like their style of artistic drawing. The next book is called Quokka. It's by Grace Hanson. Now, you don't have to get this book, but I just saw this and I was like, who doesn't want to study about quokka? Because look at this, guys. Come on. They're so cute. This has real pictures of quokka, and it talks all about their life and their habitats and what they do. And I had read a long time ago or seen a long time ago that quokkas are considered the happiest animal on the planet because they're always smiling. And yeah, so adorable. My daughter had never heard of a quokka, and when she saw this, she was just like, yes, let's read about them. And that's always something I love to hear. The next book is called Emu by Claire Saxby, and it's about emus. And if you don't know what emus are, they are native birds to Australia, similar to an ostrich. It goes through a little story of how an emu father takes care of his eggs until they hatch, and then along with the story, they have all different facts about emus. And, it was a good story. My daughter liked it, and I didn't feel like it was anything super fun, but it was a nice story that told us a lot about emus. The next book is called Are We There Yet by Alison Lester, and I do believe that she is a native Australian author. And so this book is about a family in Australia who decides to go on a road trip. They take their kids out of school and they get in a camper van and they travel all around the country of Australia. And it looks like they start here in Broome and then they just go all the way around. And yeah, it takes you through all the different places, and cities that you can visit in Australia, and all the different fun activities that the family does in each place that they stop at. So it's really nice for getting kids to see some different landmarks that are popular in Australia. The next book is called Sand Swimmers, The Secret Life of Australia's Desert Wilderness by Narelle Oliver. This book's not a storybook, it is more of an informational book, but they do tell you about the desert and a place called Ayers Rock, which is in the center of Australia. And it talks about how even though the desert seems like there's nothing there, there's a secret life of the desert, and that Aborigine people have known about the life in the desert, and how European explorers came, and one man in particular named Stuart, who also discovered how animals survive in the desert of Australia. And so it's a very informational book. I would say for first graders it's appropriate, but also they might get a little bit bored of it, maybe more appropriate for second and third graders, but I still think it's a good book for a first grader. The next book is called Big Rain Coming, and I believe this is also by a native Australian author, Bronwyn Bancroft. My daughter really liked this book. It's just very simple, but it's about like the Aborigine of an Aborigine tribe or family, and the grandfather says there's a big rain coming, and the people are waiting and waiting for this big rain. But what I love about it is the artwork, and that kids get to see some Aboriginal style art. And yeah, so through the story, everybody's waiting for this big rain to come, and the grandfather says, big rain's coming, and then eventually it does rain, and everybody's so happy because it had gotten way too hot. The next book is The Great Barrier Reef by Helen Scales. This is also an informational book all about the Great Barrier Reef, and it discusses where the reef is, how the reef was created, and all the animals that live in the barrier reef, and scientist Mr. Veron, who studied the coral reefs and named 20% of the coral reefs in the ocean, and different animals that live there, and ways that you can help save the reef and dangers to the barrier reef. It has very colorful pictures, lots of informational writing, so maybe a first grader won't sit through all of it, but it's nice to flip through and maybe pick out things that look interesting to your child. And the next 4 books are going to be storybooks. This one is called The Little Island by Margaret Wise Brown. And if you're familiar with Margaret Wise Brown, she did a book called The Runaway Bunny, and this one is just as good. She won a Caldecott Medal for this book. It's about an island, and because Australia is an island, I thought this would be a fun book to read. And it goes through about the island and all the animals that come to the island and live on the island. And then one day a cat comes to the island, of course, and so I thought my daughter would absolutely love this. And it's about the cat exploring the island and figuring out some secrets from the island. And then towards the end of the book, it shows the island going through the different seasons, and it's just really beautifully written. The next book is simply called Wombat. It's by Christopher Chang, and it's an excellent storybook about a little wombat, and it tells you about how wombats live and how they dig, and maybe some problems that they experience with predators. And towards the end, it tells you how they protect themselves from predators. So it's A really lovely little storybook to tell you all about the life of wombats, and my daughter really enjoyed this and she thought the wombat was super cute. The next book is called Elizabeth, Queen of the Seas, and this book is actually set in New Zealand, and it's an excellent, excellent book. I love this book. It's about this little elephant seal who lives in a river in New Zealand, and lots of people come and see this elephant seal because it's so unusual. And so she comes up to the park and she will put mud on herself. It tells you a little bit about the elephant seal's behavior, and everybody just falls in love with her, and they end up calling her Queen Elizabeth, the Queen of the Sea. And there she is, she's so adorable. And there's a little boy who really becomes her friend, and his name's Michael, and every day he goes to school and he wants to see her and he calls out to her. But the problem is that Elizabeth starts getting up and going out into the road, and people are afraid that they might hit her with a car, or there might be a car accident trying to swerve and avoid her. And so what happens is the people of the city decide she's got to go. Unfortunately, they have to put her somewhere else so that she doesn't get injured or that no one else gets injured. So they take her out to sea and they release her, but she ends up finding her way back. And so then the people were like, oh no, she's back. Okay, let's take her farther out. So they take her farther out. And then a month goes by and Michael's looking for her and he's like, I guess she's really gone. But then she comes back again. And so then for a third time, they take her way, way out. And the people who take her out to the ocean say there's no way she's going to make her way back this time. And a month goes by, and then 2 months go by, and 3 months go by. And Michael's really sad. And he's like, I guess she's really not coming back. And then one day, there she is. And Michael says, welcome back, Elizabeth. And the people of the town were overjoyed to see her again. And they thought, you know what? Let's just let her live here. And so they did. And they ended up putting up signs to warn people to slow down because there's an elephant seal crossing. And what I love about this book is that at the end of the book, it shows you that it was a true story, and that's a picture of Queen Elizabeth right there. She's adorable. And then it has like some informational facts here. Really, really sweet story. And then our favorite story of all, by far, is The Kookaburra and Other Stories by Dal Burns. Now, this is a book all about Aboriginal stories. So the Aborigines are the native people of Australia, and this guy, Dal Burns, I believe he's a British guy, and he spent time in Australia with the Aborigine people, and he learned all of these stories, and he really wanted to write a book about all their stories, and so he did, and this is his book. And he just has such an excellent way of describing these stories in such a in-depth way, yet a very simple way. There are absolutely no pictures in this book, just stories, but the stories are only like 2 to 3 pages long, so very quick read, and they're so engaging. And all of us, me and my daughter and my husband, we just love the stories in this book. And so if there's only one book that you would get about Australia, I would say get this book because the stories are just so fun. And so last but not least, as a bonus, I don't have the book here, but it's something that I thought of last minute. I'm either going to read this book or we're going to watch the movie, and that is The Wizard of Oz. So it is a classic story and movie. If we watch the movie, we'll probably watch the, old 1940s version with Judy Garland as Dorothy. I remember that movie from when I was a kid. It's such a memorable movie. I really think my daughter would like it. And the guy who wrote, his name is L. Frank Baum, I believe, the guy who wrote The Wizard of Oz. Some people believe that it was like supposed to be based on America, the United States, but then other people say that he's basing it off of Australia and some time that he spent in Australia, and then other people say because he was a traveler, he's basing it on many different countries that he traveled to. But I mean, it's called The Wizard of Oz, and so obviously Australia is the land of Oz, and I just think it'd be a really fun story or movie to watch. So that was all of the books on my book list about Australia. I do hope that you enjoyed that book list and then you can incorporate some of these stories into your learning, and I will see you in the next video.